Now, this is a slideshow. I have not seen any of these slides. I do not know, except for this first one, I have not seen any of these slides. So I am now going to give a presentation about the history of our organization, but I need to know what organization it is. What company am I talking about? Not a made-up company, a famous company. What company am I talking about? Well, potatoes are a real thing. Thank you, yells Zafaro. Apple! Okay! Ladies and gentlemen, I am now going to give you a brief history of Apple computers. I have not seen any of the slides that are in this, so here we go. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my presentation about the history of our organization, Apple Computers. You know, Apple Computers has been around since the 80s, and we really are proud of where we've come from and where we are now and where we're going. But in order to start to look into the future, we got to look back. We got to look back to a simple garage in Cupertino, California, where this was happening. Steve Jobs was dreaming of a pickle. Steve Jobs loved pickles, and he really wanted a pickle that day. Sitting there in the garage in Cupertino, California. And he was like, man, I wish I had a pickle. I wish I had a device in my pocket that could order me a pickle. Well, I'm going to have to do it myself. So he looked over to his friend Steve Wozniak and said, build me a computer. And Steve went, no, Britt, I knew you were going to chime in. So Steve Wozniak said, sure, I'll build you a computer, but there's something I need. I can't just build a computer out of the thin air. You got to get me what I need. And Steve Jobs says, whatever you need, you got it. And Steve Wozniak said, I need a fancy diagram of an impractical bike that will get you nowhere, but keep you dry. And so Steve Jobs sat down at his drafting table and he started drawing this design. This is the actual design that Steve Jobs drew for Wozniak. And that's a little caricature of Wozniak right there, riding his bike in the rain. So with his diagram of a bike, Steve Wozniak got to work. Now, building a computer when there was no computer around was very hard. And the most difficult component that Steve Wozniak had trouble getting was this. Ducks on dogback. There were no ducks on dogback. And he looked at Steve Jobs and said, listen, Steve, I have the computers almost done, but I need some ducks on dogback. And Steve Jobs says, strap in. We're going to go down to the pound. We're going to get you some ducks on dogback. So these two ducks, this one duck named John and one duck named Jimmy. The dogs' names have been lost to history. But John and Jimmy rode dogback around the garage, and Steve Wozniak finished that computer. Now, when that computer was done, Steve Jobs says, well, now we have a computer, but I still need my pickle. How is this computer going to get me a pickle? And Steve Wozniak said, this is how. This is how. Porn. We're going to connect this computer to the internet, and we're going to stay. Listen, it's universally known that porn pushes new technology forward. And so this is actually the first pornographic picture on the internet. Now, of course, by today's standards, it's a little tame, okay? Yes. You could do a Google search right now and come up with 20 pictures that are more pornographic than this. But back in the 1980s, this was hot. This was hot. You would get kicked off of one of the 3 main channels if you showed this picture. So, they started putting porn on the internet, and soon it took off. But Steve Jobs says, well, now we have a computer, and it's famous, and everyone has it. But I want something I can hold in my hand. And Steve Wozniak says, well, start looking at some porn. He goes, no, I don't mean that. I mean, nice. And he goes, well, start looking at some porn. No, I don't mean that. So anyway, Steve Wozniak said, here's what you need, Steve. You need the 3 W's. You need wisdom, wetness, and warmth. The wetness and the warmth you can get from the porn, but the wisdom you're not going to get from the porn. We're going to have to find that elsewhere. And that's when Steve Jobs started getting into all the Eastern philosophy, you know? And he took a trip to India. And he went to India. And then that's where he got his wisdom. And he came back to the garage and he goes, Steve Wozniak, I got it. I know how we're going to get the pickle. And Steve Wozniak said, porn? And he goes, no, not porn. This is how we're going to get the pickle. We're going to get married. We're going to marry a bunch of children. And then Steve Wozniak said, wait, we are going to marry the children? He goes, no. We're going to gather up all the kids in the neighborhood and we're going to make them get married. And Steve Wozniak goes, listen, Steve, you've had better ideas. And Steve Jobs says, no, this is an Eastern philosophy. It's called the circle of children. And he goes, no, it doesn't. And Steve Wozniak says, you've had a lot of bad ideas. This is one of them. So this is a picture of, yeah, hi. Oh, hold on a second. What's up? Good to see you. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a presentation. So this is actually a picture of Steve Jobs' worst idea. But then Steve Jobs got another idea. This is it. He sold toxic waste. That's right. He sold a big field full of toxic waste to build, ironically, he sold a big field of toxic waste to build a factory that would pollute the air building iPhones. And this is Steve Jobs' first wife. I don't, her name is lost, like the names of the 2 dogs the ducks were riding. Her name has been lost to history. But this is the actual field that Steve Jobs sold. And so they built the first iPhone factory. Now, the first iPhone is not like the iPhone you have in your pocket that you're watching this live stream on. No, this is what the first iPhone looked like. It was just Theodore's theory. The universe is constructed from elements produced by a massive explosion caused by microwaving a can of Pepsi. That's what it looked like. It looked like the first iPhone looked like if you took a can of Pepsi, put it in the microwave, and then microwaved it until it exploded. That's what the first iPhone looked like. And Steve Wozniak said, I think we could do better. I think we could do better. And so we did. And that's the iPhone we have today, ladies and gentlemen. The iPhone that you are now watching this live stream on. Look, there's me on an iPhone. And it's all thanks to Steve Jobs starting in that little garage. But you know, through it all, through their ups, their downs, the ducks on dogback, the child brides, the field of toxic waste, one thing was true about Apple. And it was this. If you want shirtless men riding horses, this is an actual picture of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak on the day the iPhone was released, celebrating their victory. And this was them riding their horses to go get their pickle. And that is the end of the story, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to thank you for coming to my Toiley Talk.